Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of All Angles. I'm Dion Jackson Miller, and a very special welcome to our viewers on onespotmedia.com. Well, lots of talk over the past few days about the North-South Highway project, I beg your pardon, as well as the land deal that is an integral part of that project. We're going to be talking about some of those issues in today's program. And joining us in studio, we have Professor Trevor Monroe. He's Executive Director of National Integrity Action. Also with us, Dr. Carol Archer, Associate Professor at the University of the West of Technology, I beg your pardon. And we're going to be coming to them in just a moment. First, though, I spoke to the former Transport and Works Minister, Dr. Omar Davies, who was a part of this process when the PNP was in power. And let's go to that interview now. One gets the impression, Dr. Davies, that you think too much is being made of this issue, the lack of evaluation. Would that be correct?
No, I don't think too much. I think there are questions from persons with a genuine interest and more information if it had been provided in terms of the overall project and what are the reasons check had to be compensated or provided with additional inputs to compensate for the fact that the government of Jamaica is not putting any money into the project. So no, I don't think it's too much is being made, but I think that once the explanation is out, I think there'll be a greater understanding. The other thing is that, as I pointed out, it's one of the few instances where administration from both parties, there was no disagreement in terms of how this project should be constructed, etc. And the PNP administration simply carried through that which had been initially negotiated with by the JLP administration.
Let's go back to your saying you think people need to understand what happened. What happened?
Well, there is no way that the expenditure of 600 million US, that's the construction cost, plus 120 million to repay the government of Jamaica. There's no way that such a loan, and it's a loan, could be repaid based on the revenues. So the question, either way, to get the project, something additional had to be done. And this was the additional. So it's either the society or the country accepts that the project is worth going for. And then the question is, how best can you put together whatever assets you have to make the project a reality.
Is there a concern, though, that as a country in this kind of position, where's the line you draw? How much do you give away?
Well, it is not giving away. I mean, if in terms of Section 2, the government was going in as a partner with Bouygues and had spent 120 million US. So I don't know how you characterize the transfer of land as a giveaway, but there was 120 million which the government had sunk in Section 2. Yes, one will have to ensure that in bargaining as to the actual parcels of lands transferred, that will be taken into consideration, that mixed with the better parcels will be some mined-out lands which wouldn't carry the same market value.
You say you don't know how people characterize it as a giveaway, but part of the reason that's happening is that people don't know. As you were saying, the information isn't there. We're hearing no valuation was done, and that's one of the major concerns for a lot of people here.
You mean and do not know the value of the assets being transferred? Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, we know that the value of the assets will in no way come close to the actual expenditure which has been made by the firm in terms of the construction, as well as in terms of repaying the government of Jamaica for its investment in Section 2.
But isn't that one of the problems, that essentially we're taking your word for this because we don't have the figures to look at, because we don't have the valuation to look at?
Well, it's not simply my word for it. The analysis had been carried out, which indicated that the revenues from the toll could not compensate, could not repay the loans. So if is it that you think that the land as is would be adequate to compensate, then it would be different from any other analysis I've seen.
One of the concerns is that some of the parcels we've been hearing about are parcels that have been traditionally reserved for agricultural use. Lands in the Caymanas area, for instance, and we're handing them over to one developer. Is that not a problem in terms of the planning process? Well,
two things. One is that there has been no finalization of the lots or the parcels in Caymanas. That's not been finalized. Secondly, even without check, there were proposals to move those lands out of agriculture in any event. There were proposals to utilize the lands for different purposes. So that's something which you should bear in mind. One of the challenges is that we all seek development. We all seek improvements to the physical infrastructure, but we expect that it can be done without expenditure, and we don't make any trade-offs.
Is that really it, though, or the concern about process? Process. So it's not that it's not expected that there be trade-offs, but the concerns, for instance, coming from the civil society groups are that we're not learning from the various reports from the contractor general, from the auditor general, in terms of the processes we should follow, the levels of transparency and accountability, and that again is attaching to this issue.
I'm willing to engage in a discussion. I'm not clear, apart from the valuation, and I'm not dismissing it apart from the valuation question. What were the other aspects of this process?
In your view, has everything been above board and available and open to the public in terms of access?
I certainly can speak for the administration of which I was a part. And I would also, I go further and say I have no reason to, from what I've seen, to question that which was done prior to us. I think that the administration before us, to have got the Chinese firm to become interested in the project, to take on the whole project. It was, remember, what was being constructed before was simply Section 2, and the Bouygues stopped when they faced the geological problems. So without being a part of the prior administration, I'm willing to say that I'm satisfied that there was whatever steps were taken were to the best interest of the country.
Were, for instance, so the agreements that the MOU and so on ever made public? Because
yes. The implementation agreement?
Yes. That's in the public domain?
Yes. I'll double check, but yes.
Because my understanding is that requests have been made to try to secure copies of those MOUs, of that MOU.
Let me double check, but there's nothing secret in them.
In regard to going forward on this issue, what do you think happens now to try to assuage public concern?
Well, I know that some valuation some valuations were carried out. One would be to put that to the public. And insofar as additional valuations are carried out, they can be put in the public.
Given our financial situation, is it a given that in fact we will be seeing more of these kinds of deals in relation to foreign developers, and in this case particularly the Chinese?
Well, I don't know why particularly the Chinese, but
they've been most prominent in some of our development projects.
Insofar as any development requires investments, either cash or land or something, then we'll have to make up our minds as to what is the combination which will entice a major firm, not necessarily Chinese, to invest in Jamaica. Now, in addition to the 720 million for the road, the development of the parcel of land will lead to perhaps investments of similar size. And these are some of the big decisions one will have to make. You're not going to make it by being afraid to take big decisions. You're not going to attract those investments if you're simply worried about whether or not there will be suggestions that the transparency was adequate and other persons should have been brought in to discuss them. These are some of the decisions you'll have to make, and I'm easy one way or the other, but I think that the decision to go ahead with that north-south road was a correct decision.
There are other concerns that have been raised, things like environmental issues, where some of this construction might be taking place. Is some of this decision-making too, what should I say, too government-based, too cabinet-based? Should it be thrown open more so that the public has more of a say and a voice here?
Well, explicitly written into the agreement is that all regulatory provisions have to be adhered to, and in every case, they have to go through the normal process any other firm would go through in that instance. Now, one shouldn't interpret that to mean that you'll develop special regulations and a special monitoring process. There are systems in place which to assess environmental impact, etc. And these will hold. These have held and will continue to hold. In looking at the road at this point, it would seem to me that there were some issues which should have been more tightly monitored. But there's no relaxation of the rules which govern any other company. They're the same rules which will govern here.
But I've even heard concerns in relation to particular alignment which was chosen.
Well, that's what I was referring to. I mean, if not the alignment, the gradients, etc. Yes. Yeah.
Saying that those could have been avoided if a different alignment had been chosen, if different lands had been used.
If what?
If a different route had been taken.
Well, I don't think that would be the responsibility of the government of Jamaica. That wouldn't be something which you can blame the investor for.
All right. So, all in all, how would it be correct to say then you're defending all the actions and the decisions which were taken in relation to this project?
In retrospect, as long as it wouldn't delay the process, there should even be it would obviously have been made sense to have even published a rough guideline of what the cost, on average, of the lands to be given. It certainly would have been better all around. But regardless of what the value of that land is, one thing we do know is that it couldn't equate to the level of investment which has taken place and that will follow with the development of those lands.
All right, stay tuned. We're going to go to break. We'll come back in just a moment.